The space station was silent. Too silent. Cold metal walls stretched into long corridors covered in dust and flickering lights. Broken wires hung like dead snakes from the ceiling. Alarms had stopped long ago, but their faint echo still haunted the air. The emptiness was heavy, as if the whole place had forgotten life. A young man stepped carefully across the floor. His name was Daniel. To anyone else, he was just an ordinary human. No special blood, no special power. But he had one thing many lacked: courage. And courage was what brought him here, walking alone through this ruined station orbiting a forgotten world. Daniel's boots crunched over shattered glass. He carried only a small pack and a weak flashlight. His heart beat faster as he looked at the dark halls. Something about this place felt wrong, as if shadows were watching him from corners. He almost turned back, but then he heard it, a sound. A soft sound. A cry. Daniel froze. It was not the cry of a machine or a wild alien animal. It was the cry of a person. A girl. He followed the sound, moving quickly, his flashlight trembling in his hand. The cry grew clearer. It was coming from behind a broken steel door. With effort, he pushed it aside. Sparks fell from the damaged frame. Inside the room, sitting against the wall, was a girl. She looked no older than 18. Her dark hair was messy, tangled with dust. Her clothes were torn as if she had run from something. But what caught Daniel's eyes most were her eyes. They glowed faintly, like tiny stars hidden behind glass. She lifted her head slowly when he entered. Her face was pale, full of fear. Don't come closer," she whispered. Daniel stopped where he was. He raised both his hands to show he meant no harm. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. The girl's lips trembled. She wiped her eyes quickly, trying to hide her tears. "You should go. They are coming." "Who's coming?" Daniel asked, but she only shook her head. He took a cautious step forward. The room smelled of smoke and burned circuits. The girl's wrist caught his attention, a silver band around it glowing with strange alien symbols. He had never seen such technology before. It pulsed faintly, like it was alive. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then said softly, "Lyra." Daniel nodded. "All right, Lyra, my name is Daniel. You don't have to be afraid. I just want to help." Her eyes searched his face as if testing whether his words were true. After a moment, she relaxed a little. "Why are you here?" she asked. Daniel gave a small smile, though his nerves were tight. "Curiosity, maybe. Or maybe I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But now, maybe I was supposed to be here. To find you?" Lyra lowered her gaze. Her hands shook as she tried to hold them still. "You shouldn't stay. If they find you with me, they will kill you too." Daniel felt a chill at her words, but he refused to step back. He crouched beside her, keeping his voice calm. "Who are they?" Before she could answer, a distant sound echoed through the corridor outside. Heavy footsteps. Metallic, sharp in rhythm. Like soldiers marching, Lyra's face turned white. She gripped Daniel's arm with surprising strength. "It's them," she whispered in fear. Daniel looked at the door. His heartbeat quickened. He didn't know who they were, but he knew enough. Someone dangerous, someone hunting this girl. He looked back at her glowing eyes, her trembling hands, and the strange band on her wrist. She was not normal. She was not just a lost traveler. There was something more, something powerful. But right now she was just a girl in crisis. Daniel took a deep breath. He reached into his pack, pulling out a small water flask. He placed it gently in her hands. "Drink, you need strength. We'll figure this out." Her hands shook as she held the flask, but she drank small sips. Her eyes softened for the first time, as if the kindness surprised her. The footsteps outside grew louder, closer. Daniel's mind raced. He had no weapon, no plan, only his courage. But he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't leave her here. He whispered firmly, "Stay close to me. We'll get out of this together." Lyra's lips parted as if she wanted to argue. But then, for the first time, she nodded. The lights above flickered violently. The sound of metal doors slamming open echoed in the corridor. Shadows moved. The hunters had arrived, and Daniel had just chosen to stand against them. The corridor shook with heavy footsteps. Metal echoed like thunder. Whoever was coming, they were close, too close. Daniel pulled Lyra gently to her feet. Her legs trembled, but she leaned on him for support. The faint glow in her eyes flickered like a warning light. "Can you walk?" he whispered. Yes, she said softly, though her voice betrayed her fear. Daniel nodded. Then we move. Now. He guided her out of the broken room, his flashlight dim but steady. The hall stretched endlessly, filled with shadows. Every step made his heart race faster. Behind them, the sound of armored boots grew louder, like a predator hunting its prey. Lyra clutched the silver band on her wrist as if it were her lifeline. Daniel noticed her knuckles turn white from the pressure. "What is that thing?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. She shook her head. "Don't ask. You wouldn't understand," Daniel frowned. "Try me. I'm not as stupid as I look." Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile despite her fear, but it vanished quickly. She whispered, "If they find me, it won't matter who you are. They'll kill you too. Or worse." Her words sent a chill down his spine. He wanted to press for answers, but the urgency of survival left no room. They turned a corner just as a squad of soldiers appeared at the other end of the hallway. Their eyes glowed red under metal helmets, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. "Run," Daniel hissed. He grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her down a side passage. The soldiers shouted in a strange alien tongue, then fired. Beams of blue light cut through the air, scorching the walls where they had just stood. The pair sprinted, lungs burning, feet pounding. Sparks rained from broken panels above as energy blasts struck all around them. Finally, Daniel spotted an open hatch ahead. Without thinking, he pushed Lyra inside and followed. The door slid shut just as a bolt of light smashed into it from the outside. Inside, the room was dark, filled with crates and strange machines long abandoned. Daniel leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Lyra collapsed beside him, her face pale. "Who are they?" Daniel asked again, his voice sharp this time. "And why are they after you?" Lyra hesitated. Her glowing eyes seemed to search for the right words. Finally, she whispered, "They are hunters. Not for money. Not for war. They serve someone greater." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Greater than who? Greater than what?" She shook her head quickly. "I can't say. If you knew, you'd be in danger." Daniel gave a short laugh, dry and bitter. "In danger?" "Lyra, I'm already in danger. I'm stuck on a dead station, running from monsters in armor, and all because I decided to help you. Don't you think I deserve at least one honest answer?" Her lips trembled. She pulled her knees close to her chest, hugging herself. For a moment, she looked like nothing more than a scared girl. But then the wristband on her arm pulsed again, casting eerie light across the room. Daniel stared at it. The symbols glowed, moving as if alive, forming shapes he almost recognized but couldn't quite understand. "That's not just jewelry," he said softly. "It's something else." Lyra looked away. "It's a beacon," she admitted finally. "It calls to them. That's why they always find me. That's why I can never stop running." Daniel's stomach tightened. "Then why keep it on? Destroy it, throw it away, something." Her eyes filled with sorrow. "I can't. If I break it, my mother will know. She will find me." Daniel frowned. "Your mother? Why would that be a problem? Wouldn't she want you safe?" Lyra's silence was louder than any answer. Before Daniel could push further, a loud crash shook the walls. The hunters were near again. He cursed under his breath. He had no weapons, no armor, only determination. He grabbed a metal rod from the floor, holding it like a bat. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. Lyra touched his arm, her hand cold but steady. "You don't understand. If I use my power, they'll know exactly where I am, and then she'll know too." Daniel turned to her, confusion mixed with anger. "Who is she?" Lyra opened her mouth, but before she could answer, the hatch burst open. Soldiers stormed inside, weapons raised, their glowing red eyes fixed on Lyra. One of them pointed directly at her and shouted in their alien tongue. Daniel didn't wait. He swung the rod with all his strength, striking the first soldier. Sparks flew as metal hit armor. Chaos filled the room. Energy blast lit the shadows. Lyra screamed. Daniel fought desperately, blocking, dodging, pushing back. In the chaos, Lyra pressed her hands together. Her eyes glowed brighter, like stars burning alive. "No," she whispered to herself. "Not yet. Not yet." But Daniel was cornered. One soldier raised his weapon to fire directly at him. Lyra's hands shook violently. The wristband pulsed brighter and brighter, and then a shockwave of light exploded from her body, filling the room with blinding energy. The soldiers were thrown back like rag dolls, their weapons flying from their hands. The walls shook. The machines cracked. Daniel collapsed to the floor, ears ringing, vision blurred. When he looked up, he saw Lyra standing in the middle of the destruction, her eyes burning like suns. Her hair floating as if caught in invisible wind. She looked nothing like a helpless girl now. She looked like something else, something powerful, something terrifying. Daniel whispered in awe and fear. "What are you?" Lyra lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. "I am the daughter of someone you cannot imagine." The room still shook from the force of Lyra's power. Smoke curled in the air. Sparks rained from shattered machines. The alien soldiers lay scattered across the floor, their armor cracked, their weapons broken. Daniel pushed himself up slowly, his chest heaving. His ears rang and his hands trembled, but his eyes never left Lyra. She stood in the center, breathing hard. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly, but her presence was still fierce. For a moment, Daniel almost forgot the danger. He could only stare at her, stunned. You did that," he whispered. Lyra's head dropped. She looked ashamed, almost guilty. "I had no choice." Daniel stepped closer. "No choice? You just saved us," she shook her head. "You don't understand. Now they'll know. They'll feel it. And they'll come." As if her words summoned the threat, the walls groaned, and alarms that had been silent for years suddenly roared to life. Red lights flashed. A distant metallic howl echoed through the corridors, followed by the steady march of more boots. Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we run." He grabbed Lyra's hand without hesitation. She looked at him startled, but this time she didn't resist. Together they dashed out of the room. The corridor outside was alive with chaos. More alien soldiers poured in, their red eyes burning, their weapons raised. The hunters had called reinforcements. Daniel pulled Lyra down a narrow passage, the soldiers firing after them. Beams of blue energy blasted the walls, leaving holes of molten steel. The air was hot and sharp with burning metal. "Faster," Daniel shouted. Lyra tried, but she stumbled. Her powers had drained her strength. Daniel pulled her up, refusing to let her fall. Behind them, alien voices barked orders. Heavy footsteps grew closer. They were gaining ground. Daniel's mind raced. He had no map, no plan. But one rule was clear: keep moving. They turned a corner and found themselves in a wide corridor lined with broken windows. Beyond the glass stretched the endless void of space, stars glittering like diamonds. The beauty was cruel because escape was impossible that way. Daniel spotted a sign half buried in dust. Docking Bay. His heart leapt. "This way!" They sprinted toward the bay, but the hunters were faster. More soldiers appeared from the side halls, blocking the path. Daniel cursed under his breath. He gripped the metal rod tighter, ready to fight, but there were too many. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly again, but she shook her head. "If I use my power again, she will know for sure. Then we survive without it," Daniel said firmly. The soldiers closed in, their weapons charged, humming with deadly energy. Daniel scanned the area desperately. Then he spotted it, an emergency shaft on the wall, its hatch partly open. A maintenance tunnel. He shoved Lyra toward it. "Go." She hesitated, fear in her eyes. "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you, go." She crawled into the shaft, and Daniel swung his rod at the first soldier that lunged at him. The impact echoed like thunder. He pushed another back with all his strength, then dived into the shaft just as a beam of energy seared past his leg. The hatch slammed shut behind them. Darkness swallowed them, broken only by the faint light of Lyra's glowing eyes. The tunnel was narrow, forcing them to crawl on hands and knees. Daniel's breath echoed in the metal tube, every sound amplified. He could hear the soldiers outside pounding on the hatch, their voices sharp and furious. "They won't stop," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "Then we don't stop either," Daniel replied. They crawled for what felt like forever, turning through tight bends, sliding down slopes. The station groaned around them as if it hated their escape. Finally, the tunnel opened into another chamber. Daniel dropped down first, then helped Lyra. The chamber was filled with old cargo crates and broken droids. It looked abandoned for decades, but the silence was short. A loud metallic clang echoed behind them. The soldiers had found another way in. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand again. "No rest, keep moving." They pushed through the crates, weaving between shadows. Lyra's legs were weak, but Daniel's determination pulled them forward. Then suddenly, a giant window on the far wall cracked open. Outside they saw the docking bay, massive, filled with ruined ships and scattered debris. Hope surged in Daniel's chest. If even one ship still worked, they had a chance. But then came the sound. A roar. Deep, mechanical, monstrous. From the shadows of the bay, a massive figure stepped forward. It wasn't a soldier. It was something worse. An armored beast. Half machine, half flesh, with glowing red eyes and claws of steel. Lyra gasped in horror. A sentinel. Daniel swallowed hard. What the hell is that? Her voice shook. They send sentinels only when escape must not be allowed. The sentinel's gaze locked on them. It roared again, the sound shaking the floor. Behind them, the soldiers poured into the chamber. In front of them, the sentinel advanced. Each step like a hammer, trapped. Daniel gripped his rod tighter, his knuckles white. He glanced at Lyra, who stood frozen, her eyes wide with fear. For a brief moment, he almost gave up. But then he remembered the way she had looked when he first found her. Just a girl, alone and crying. He refused to let her end that way. Daniel's voice was steady, even though his heart pounded. "Stay behind me." The sentinel raised its claw, ready to strike. Soldiers closed in from behind, and Daniel, an ordinary human with nothing but courage, prepared to face them all. The sentinel's roar shook the chamber like thunder. Its claws scraped the floor, sparks flying with every step. Behind Daniel and Lyra, alien soldiers shouted, their boots pounding closer. Trapped between an army and a monster, the air itself felt heavy with doom. Daniel gripped his metal rod tighter. His heart hammered, but his voice remained steady. "Stay behind me," he whispered to Lyra. Her glowing eyes trembled. "You can't fight that," she said, her voice breaking. "Maybe not," Daniel admitted, "but I can buy us time." The sentinel raised its claw high, a shadow falling over them. The moment stretched like eternity. Daniel braced himself for impact. Then Lyra screamed. A burst of light exploded from her wristband, flooding the room with blinding energy. The sentinel staggered, roaring in fury. Soldiers shielded their eyes, stumbling back. Daniel turned in shock. Lyra stood taller now, her eyes blazing like suns. The silver band on her wrist pulsed with power, symbols shifting and glowing brighter than ever before. The monster paused, almost hesitant. The soldiers froze too, murmuring among themselves. Daniel looked from them to Lyra. "What the hell did you just do?" Her face was pale, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to, but I had to." The sentinel growled low, like it recognized her. Slowly, it lowered its claw. Soldiers stepped back, their weapons lowering too. Daniel's confusion deepened. Why were they hesitating? Why weren't they attacking? Then it hit him. They weren't afraid of him. They were afraid of her. "Lyra," he whispered. "Who are you?" Her lips pressed tight. She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed his arm. "We must leave. Now." They dashed through the stunned soldiers, who parted as if uncertain whether to fight or kneel. Daniel swung his rod at one who moved forward, knocking him aside. Lyra's light pushed the others back, clearing their path. They reached another hatch and forced it open, stumbling into a dark, forgotten chamber. The door sealed behind them, muffling the chaos. For a long moment, only silence remained. Daniel leaned against the wall, chest heaving. Lyra sat on the floor, hugging her knees, her glow dimming again. Finally, Daniel spoke. "No more secrets. I've risked my life for you. I've fought monsters for you. And now I need to know, why are they afraid of you?" Lyra didn't meet his eyes. She stared at her wristband, the light fading slowly. Her voice was soft, almost broken. "Because of who my mother is." Daniel frowned. "Your mother?" She nodded, her eyes glistening. "She is not like others. She rules. More than planets. More than systems. She rules worlds." Daniel blinked, struggling to understand. "You mean she's a queen?" Lyra's lips trembled. "She is the queen of worlds." The words echoed in the chamber, heavy and unreal. Daniel laughed nervously, shaking his head. "That's impossible. Queens of fairy tales, maybe. But not here, not in space." Lyra lifted her gaze at last. Her glowing eyes were filled with sorrow. "You saw how they stopped. You saw the way they looked at me. Do you think they feared you?" Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came. He remembered the sentinel's hesitation, the soldiers' retreat. They hadn't looked at him like an enemy. They had looked at Lyra like a forbidden fire. Slowly, Daniel sank to the floor across from her. "If your mother is really a queen, why are you here? Why were you alone? Crying in the dark?" Tears rolled down Lyra's cheeks. She whispered, Because I ran away. Daniel's breath caught. Ran away? From being the daughter of the most powerful woman in the galaxy? I didn't want it, Lyra said, shaking her head. All my life they told me I must rule when she is gone. That I must wear the crown. That I must command armies and control worlds. But I never wanted power. I only wanted freedom. To see the stars, not rule them. Her voice cracked and she buried her face in her hands. Daniel watched her quietly. In that moment, she was not a goddess or a royal heir. She was just a girl drowning in a destiny too heavy for her shoulders. He felt a surge of sympathy. Carefully, he placed a hand on her arm. You're not alone now, he said softly. Maybe I can't fight your mother or her armies or whatever the hell that monster was. But I can stand with you, for as long as you'll let me. Lyra looked at him, eyes shimmering with tears and light. For the first time, she gave a small, genuine smile. But before the moment could settle, the wristband on her arm pulsed again. This time the glow was sharper, harsher. Lyra's smile vanished. She whispered in horror, She knows. Daniel's blood ran cold. Who knows? My mother, Lyra said. She felt my power. She knows where I am. As if to confirm her words, the walls shook violently. A deep hum filled the air, vibrating through the station. Daniel rushed to the window. Outside, in the black sea of space, shadows moved. Massive shapes emerged. Ships. Dozens. No. Hundreds. An entire fleet. Daniel's eyes widened. Each ship was bigger than cities, glowing with energy that made stars look dim. At the center of the fleet, a throne-shaped vessel shone brighter than all others. A voice echoed faintly through the walls, deep and commanding. A woman's voice, my daughter. Daniel froze. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt inside his bones. Lyra's face paled. She whispered, almost in tears, She's here. The station trembled like a dying beast. Metal groaned, lights flickered, and dust rained from the ceiling. Outside, the Queen's fleet filled the void of space, blocking every star. Thousands of ships hung like silent predators, their weapons glowing, waiting for the order to strike. Daniel gripped the edge of the broken window, his chest tight. He had seen warships before, but nothing like this. These weren't ships, they were floating kingdoms built to conquer worlds. And all of them were here, for Lyra. Behind him, she sat frozen, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The silver band on her wrist pulsed faster, each beat like a drum of doom. Daniel turned. What happens now? Lyra's lips trembled. She'll take me back. She always does. You say that like it's a prison, Daniel replied. It is a prison, Lyra whispered. The moment she finds me, I lose everything. My freedom, my choices, my life. I'll be nothing but her heir, locked in a golden cage. Daniel crouched beside her, forcing her to look at him. And what about me? What happens to me when your mother arrives? Her eyes filled with sorrow. If she sees you, if she knows you helped me, she will destroy you. The words hit Daniel like a punch. Destroy, not capture. Not punish, destroy. He swallowed hard, but his voice stayed steady. Then I guess we don't let her find us. Lyra shook her head. It's too late. The moment I used my power, she felt it. She knows I'm here. She always knows. Daniel clenched his fists. He had no weapons, no armor, no way to fight a fleet. But giving up wasn't in his nature. He looked at Lyra, at the girl who had been crying in the ruins, the girl who just wanted freedom. He couldn't abandon her. We still have a choice, he said firmly. Lyra blinked. A choice? Yes, we run. We fight, we hide. We do something. You said you don't want to be trapped. Then don't, not while I'm here. Her eyes softened, but fear still held her heart. You don't understand. If I use my power again, she'll lock onto me completely. She'll send her sentinels, armies, you'll die. Daniel gave a small, grim smile. Maybe, but if I walk away, if I leave you, you die too, inside. I'd rather fight and fall than do nothing. Before she could answer, the chamber shook violently. The hatch behind them exploded open. Soldiers stormed inside, red eyes blazing, weapons raised. Daniel leapt to his feet, swinging his metal rod. He struck the first soldier, knocking him back, but more flooded in. Blue energy bolts lit the room, scorching the walls. Lyra screamed as Daniel pushed her behind cover. Sparks rained down. Run, he shouted. She hesitated, her heart breaking. He was only human, yet he fought like a warrior, standing against enemies that even seasoned soldiers feared. But there were too many. Daniel swung again, but a soldier slammed him into the wall. Pain shot through his body. His rod clattered to the floor. The alien raised its weapon, aiming at his chest. Lyra's eyes blazed. "No!" she cried. The wristband pulsed violently, symbols spinning faster than ever before. A wave of energy erupted from her body, knocking every soldier across the chamber. Weapons shattered, armor cracked, and silence followed. Daniel coughed, pushing himself up. He looked at her in awe. She stood in the middle of the destruction, glowing like a star, her hair floating in invisible currents, but tears ran down her face. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Every time I use this power, the connection grows stronger. She can see me now. She knows exactly where I am." Daniel's chest tightened. "Then we move now." She shook her head. "It's too late. She'll be here herself, and when she comes, she'll ask me to choose." Daniel frowned. "Choose what?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with pain. "To return as her heir, or to defy her. But if I defy her, she'll destroy everything. Worlds will burn, and you—" Her voice broke. "She will kill you first." The chamber shook again. This time it wasn't soldiers. A beam of golden light cut through the roof, blinding and pure. The air grew heavy, pressing down like the weight of 1,000 storms. Daniel shielded his eyes, but he could feel the presence, the sheer, terrifying power of someone descending. Lyra fell to her knees, trembling. "She's here." A shadow formed in the golden light, tall and regal. A voice echoed, deep and commanding, yet smooth as silk. "My daughter," the voice said. "You've run long enough." Daniel's breath caught. The Queen of Worlds had arrived. The golden light shifted, illuminating the figure fully. A woman in armor woven with stars, a crown of galaxies upon her head. Her eyes burned brighter than suns, and when she looked at Daniel, his blood froze. "And you," the Queen whispered. "The human who dares stand beside her. You must choose too." The air cracked with tension. Two choices hung heavy. Submit to the Queen, or defy her. Daniel's heart pounded. He had faced soldiers, sentinels, and death itself. But this choice, this was greater than all of them. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Her voice thundered. "Choose." The chamber blazed with golden light. Dust lifted from the floor, floating like tiny stars caught in the power of the one who had arrived. The Queen of Worlds stood tall, her crown glowing like a constellation. Her presence was overwhelming, a force that crushed the air from Daniel's lungs. Daniel had faced death before. Soldiers, sentinels, collapsing stations. He had stood against them with only courage. But this was different. This was not an enemy of flesh and steel. This was something far beyond human measure. The Queen's eyes moved to Lyra. Her voice was both gentle and terrifying, carrying the weight of galaxies. "My child," she said, "you cannot hide anymore. You belong with me." Lyra knelt, trembling. The glow in her eyes dimmed as if even her light bowed before her mother's. "I don't belong anywhere," she whispered. The Queen stepped closer. Her footsteps made the metal floor quake. "You belong everywhere. You are heir to my throne. You will inherit all worlds, all life. That is your destiny." Tears welled in Lyra's eyes. She shook her head. "I don't want destiny. I want freedom." The Queen's expression hardened. For a brief moment, her golden aura pulsed like a storm. "Freedom?" Her voice was sharp now. "You speak of freedom while entire civilizations wait for your guidance? While enemies gather to strike at us? You are not a simple girl. You are the future of existence." Daniel clenched his fists. He couldn't stay silent. He stepped forward, his voice raw but firm. "She's not just your heir. She's a person. She has a right to choose her own life." The Queen's gaze snapped to him. For the first time, her perfect calm cracked. Her eyes burned brighter, and Daniel felt as if his body was being crushed under invisible weight. "A human dares speak to me," she hissed. "Do you know who I am? I have ended empires with a thought. I have broken gods. And you—" She leaned forward, her voice ablaze. "You are dust." Daniel's knees buckled, but he forced himself to stand. His whole body screamed in pain, but he refused to bow. He met her eyes even as his vision blurred. "Maybe I am dust, but dust can still stand in the wind. And I won't let you decide her life for her." Lyra gasped, reaching for him. "Daniel, stop." "She'll kill you!" The Queen's hand lifted. Power crackled around her fingers like lightning. "Perhaps I should," but then she paused. Her golden eyes narrowed as she studied him. Slowly her hand lowered. "Strange," she murmured. "No human has ever resisted me before. You are weak, fragile, nothing, and yet you still stand. Daniel's chest heaved. Maybe that's what makes us strong. We stand even when we shouldn't. For the first time, the Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. Not warm, but curious. She turned back to Lyra. Do you see? This is what humans are, defiant, stubborn, reckless, and you run with them instead of embracing who you are. Lyra's tears spilled freely now. Because they remind me of what I want to be. Not a crown, not a weapon, not a queen. Just someone who can choose. The Queen's aura flared, the golden light nearly blinding. Choice is a weakness. Power demands sacrifice. Do you think you were born with this gift for yourself? No, you were born for all worlds. Without you, the galaxy falls into chaos. Lyra covered her ears, shaking her head. I never asked for this. The Queen's voice thundered. No child asks for destiny, but destiny still comes. The room quaked violently, cracks splitting the walls. Daniel grabbed Lyra, pulling her away from falling debris. The Queen watched silently, her gaze unreadable. Finally, she spoke, quieter now. You think me cruel, child, but you do not know the truth.